Hey y'all. We officially live in a timeline that has Donald Trump taking a second term as the President of the United States. You're scared? I'm scared. Hell, Joe Biden is scared, warning the nation about oligarchies and consolidation of power. It is frightening times. And here's how we're going to survive this, guided by people who have been through this before. First, remember this is not new. You think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read. It was books that taught me that the things that tormented me most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive, who had ever been alive. Personally, I find comfort in knowing that we are not alone. This is not a new challenge that we must pioneer. We are not suddenly in dark ages when the world has only ever known peace. The world has been bad many times before, and after we get through this and things are good, it will probably become bad again. This is the nature of humans, this is the nature of man, but every time that we do this dance, every time it gets bad and we topple the bad guys, and we do defeat the bad guys. Italy, Germany, Portugal, Spain, Chile, Japan, they have all toppled fascist governments. And that is modern fascism. Before we coined the term, there was still authoritarianism. There were still dictatorships. They just didn't have the F label yet, and we have toppled them every time. That doesn't mean that's going to be easy. And that doesn't mean that this is not going to be scary. It is. But for me, I find a lot of peace in knowing that this is not the first time, which means that it can be done and has been done, and we're gonna do it again. And it motivates me to see it to the end because I know that every time humans have done this, we have emerged a little bit more perfect, a little bit more egalitarian, with a bit more rights, with a bit more peace. It hasn't been a fairy tale ending, but we always make strides. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And that certainly doesn't mean that it's going to be quick, but that does mean that it's possible. That if we band together and take care of one another and tell them hell the fuck no, there is a future for us on the other side that is a little bit more perfect, a little bit more egalitarian. Second, ground yourself in community. One of the most vital ways we sustain ourselves is by building communities of resistance, places where we know we are not alone. You are going to need your people more than you have ever needed them, not just for resources or support, but so that you don't feel alone. Text messages are not enough. Voice notes are barely cutting it. You need to talk on the phone. You need to meet in person. If you can't afford to go out, host them over at your house. If you can't afford to feed them, tell them to bring their own snacks. Our devices are isolating, and the news is terrifying. Those two things combine to make you feel small and alone. When you feel small and alone, you feel helpless. And when you feel helpless, you do nothing. You need to lean into your friends and your family to remind you that you are not alone. If you don't have friends, make them. I don't know what to tell you. Go make some damn friends. TikTok may or may not be getting shut down. Don't join Red Note. Use that free time to take your ass down to your local library, join one of their free clubs, do a free class, and make a friend. It is so easy to feel like the world is full of hate and everything is out to get you, and that's not true. Leaning into your community will remind you that love is real. The world is not all bad, and the future is worth fighting for. Third, take rest when you need it. Anyone who's interested in making change in the world also has to learn how to take care of herself, himself, theirselves. A key tool of fascism is inundation. Creates so much noise that people don't have enough energy to focus on anything else. Do not let them do that to you. How? Well, it's going to sound counterintuitive, but the way that you avoid checking out permanently is by checking out selectively. Rest is essential. Joy is essential. Constant engagement without breaks leads to burnout, which weakens your personal resilience as well as the strength of the overall movement. That is what they want. And so to avoid that, you have got to take rest when you need it. This is a marathon. Countries that have toppled this, they toppled it over years, sometimes decades. Again, it's not going to be easy, but it is possible. And one of the things that makes it possible is longevity. Sustainability. You have got to be able to do this for the long term. And I don't even just mean fight, I mean survive. You have got to be able to survive DT has indicated that he wants to work fast. He wants to start getting stuff done immediately, which means there are going to be a lot of distressing headlines and you cannot give them all your energy. Again, I'm not saying check out. I'm saying use your discernment. Know when you've seen too much and when you need to take a break. When it's time to take a break, lean into that community we just talked about. Watch YouTube videos. Hell, watch my YouTube videos. Maybe not this channel because we do a lot of politics over here. SDEL has been a political magazine from jump. That's not gonna change. But my other YouTube channel, where I be baking bread and testing recipes, go over there. There's a reason why I keep them separate. I am a politics girly from way back in the day, but I keep things lighthearted over there because I know that this world is overwhelming. And sometimes people cannot engage with politics. People cannot engage with the heartbreaking truth. They just want some escapism. It's your job as a responsible citizen to not anesthetize yourself to what's going on here. But the answer is not constant engagement. It's simply not. You don't have to stay woke. You can take naps every once in a while. When you rest, you have time to heal. You have time to process, to regroup, to innovate on ways to make this a better country for us. That is vital. It's necessary. So take your time when you need to. Focus on your friends. Focus on your family. Focus on the things that you think are worth fighting for, that are worth preserving, so that when you come back and you're recharged and you're ready to re-engage, you remember what you're doing this for. 4. Divest. Fascism should more appropriately be called corporatism because it is a merger of state and corporate power. Yes, as in Daddy Mussolini, the man who invented fascism. Remember that this is not new, which means we know exactly why it happened. The math for fascism is quite simple. Governments and corporations become greedy and want to keep more and more wealth for themselves. They do this a number of ways. The ways that we're all very cognizant of, like raising the prices of goods. But they do this in other more insidious ways that you might not notice if you were not paying attention. They lower your wage and increase the CEO's wage. They privatize insurance, make it very expensive, then deny your claims. They take a penny here, they take a penny here, they take 3 pennies over here, and it all adds up to create a huge wealth gap. Wealth gaps, also known as economic inequality, fuels polarization. Why? Because when people are busting their ass day in and day out, but they still cannot pay their bills, they want to know why. But the 1% is never going to admit, oh, it's because we took it. So instead, they're going to point the finger somewhere else. They're going to blame it on Jews. They're going to blame it on blacks. They're going to blame it on gays. They're going to blame it on women. They will blame it on everyone they can instead of admitting that they've been stealing from you. And then they will manipulate your memories of the past to prove their point. Hey, remember when everything was so much easier back when those people had less rights? Kind of seems like them getting rights made things worse. This is how people become polarized, because they are fed lies that are rolled in breadcrumbs of truth. Our brains are masters of efficiency, and by default, they are going to pick the easiest thing to believe. It is much easier, especially in a country that is already built on racism, to just blame a certain group for why everything has gone wrong, versus to accept that your system is taking advantage of you, the dream that you were sold is a lie, and that the country you love and believe in needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. That is an existential crisis. People don't want to have existential crises, they just want to pay their bills. What does this all have to do with divesting? At the end of the day, the 1% wants your money. They want your paycheck before they give it to you, and they want the rest of it after. You can try and prevent some of that paycheck getting stolen beforehand. You can negotiate your salary, get every cent that you can out of them before you start, but we have got to stop giving them our paychecks afterwards. Stop buying their shit. These companies are getting closer and closer with our government. Elon Musk is in the White House. Facebook is giving up on content moderation because they know that that will make DT happy. These companies are powering the government, but we power these companies. So take your power back. I have a friend who loves Teslas. She's obsessed with Teslas. She just traded hers in. Imagine if 10% of Tesla owners did that. Elon Musk would shit himself. Any of these 1%ers would, and we have evidence of this. In Q1 of 2022, Netflix reported that they'd lost 200,000 subscribers. It was the first loss that they had reported in over a decade. Even with the subscriber loss, they did not actually report a revenue loss. They still had over $7 billion in revenue. That shit didn't matter. Their stock dropped 35%. Why? Because all the 1% care about is their money. Making it, keeping it, growing it over time. Divesting from capitalism and corporatism is how we make a difference. They want power and they want money. Rob them of both. You decide what that looks like for you, but I would venture to say that you don't actually need to have a different outfit every single day. It's okay to repeat outfits. All these different ways that you have been sold the idea that you need to buy something to fix something in your life, it's not true. In a lot of instances, you probably have something that'll work just fine around the house, or you could make your own solution. Yes, once upon a time, we just MacGyvered stuff to fix our issues. It's time to get back to that. They do this shit because they can get away with it. So rob them of your attention and rob them of your dollar to prove to them that they cannot get away with it anymore. Remind them that it's supposed to be supply and demand. It's supposed to be a relationship between the consumer and the people who provide the goods. Not all of us held at gunpoint while they tell us how much money they demand. Remind them that they are not in charge. We decide what goes here. And that brings us to number 5. Don't let it happen. The world will not be destroyed by evil people, but by good people who do nothing to stop it. Hopefully, there will always be good people courageous enough to take on the bad guys. This is the only way humanity can hope for salvation. I'm not saying that you need to go storm the Capitol. What I'm saying is that too many people have thought it can't happen here, and that is the wrong mindset. If you're one of them, that's fine. Don't wallow in being wrong. Embrace the chance to get it right. The correct mindset is we won't let it happen, because that is the only way. The fascist machine will never stop itself. It's never going to pull its own emergency brake. It is people who stop fascism. Civil disobedience, military interference, government regulation. Figure out what your resistance looks like. It can be small. If your child's school is saying that slavery was a choice, teach your children the truth about chattel slavery. Do not accept alternative facts. Do not accept revisionist history. Preserve the truth. Preserve independent news by supporting your local newspaper, independently run newspapers, student-run newspapers. Preserve independent artists, your local artisans, your local filmmakers, your local farmers. You can get involved with local organizations that provide mutual aid to targeted groups because there are going to be a lot of targeted groups. You can also resist in larger ways. It can be protests, it can be boycotts, it can be civil disobedience. As much as the state is going to try and tell you otherwise, you have a right to all of those things. You are allowed to tell the government that you are displeased with how they are running. You are allowed to hold the government accountable. But if you're afraid to protest, if you're afraid to be on the front lines, that's fine. There's other ways you can contribute. Make lunch for the people who aren't. Deliver lunch to the protesters who are out there demanding better. Offer childcare to organizers. There are many ways to contribute to a community and a cause, and there are organizations who have already written this playbook. It's going to be a maddening time. They're going to make oppression look like it's for our own good. They're going to co-opt liberal language and use it against us. We've already seen this with the bastardization of the word woke, of DEI, with repealing Title IX and calling it discrimination. It's going to hurt everybody, including the people who voted for him and swore that these were the solutions. As Sinclair Lewis said, when fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross. These are scary times, and at times it's going to be really, really hard. But we will get through it, because we've done it before. I will see you soon.